The Kethavar hunting pack moved through the dense alien forest with deadly silence, their massive forms standing nearly 3 meters tall, cut through the undergrowth like shadows made flesh. Each creature possessed razor-sharp claws that could slice through titanium, fangs dripping with paralytic venom, and hide thick enough to deflect plasma bolts. They were the apex predators of 17 different worlds, feared throughout the galaxy. At the front of the pack, the alpha female Zarathus raised her elongated snout to taste the air. Her nostrils flared as she detected something unusual, a scent that didn't belong to any prey species they knew. It was warm-blooded, certainly, but there was something else, something that made her hunting instincts both excited and cautious. The scent grew stronger as they approached a small clearing where strange metal structures had been erected. The Kethavar had never seen anything like these geometric shapes before. They were clearly artificial, but unlike the flowing organic architecture their prey species typically created. "New meat," growled Thakmor, the pack's largest male, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through his chest. His yellow eyes gleamed with anticipation as saliva dripped from his fangs. Zarathus motioned for silence. She had learned to be careful when encountering unknown species. The Kethavar had evolved as hunters across multiple worlds, adapting to hunt everything from the crystal-shelled Vorthak to the energy-based Luminari. But something about this scent triggered ancient warnings buried deep in her genetic memory. Through the trees, they spotted movement near the metal structures. The creatures were bipedal, much smaller than typical prey, standing only about 2 meters tall. Their skin appeared soft and pale without any visible armor plating or natural weapons. They moved with what seemed like clumsy coordination compared to other species the Kethavar had hunted. "They look weak," whispered Velthar, the youngest of the hunting pack. His inexperience showed in his eagerness to attack immediately. "No claws, no fangs, no armor. This will be easy." The alpha female studied the strange beings more carefully. They wore artificial coverings over their bodies and carried objects that might be tools or weapons. Most peculiar of all, they seemed completely unaware of the deadly predators watching them from the forest edge. One of the creatures stood apart from the others, slightly taller and broader. It moved with more purpose, pointing at different areas around their camp, while making sounds that seemed to be some form of communication. The Kethavar had encountered thousands of species, and most used telepathy, pheromones, or bioelectric fields to communicate. These creatures appeared to use acoustic vibrations, a primitive method that seemed to confirm their lower evolutionary status. The large one first, Zarathus decided, her tactical mind already planning the attack. Eliminate the leader, scatter the rest, then pick them off individually. The pack spread out in their traditional hunting formation, a technique perfected over millennia of successful hunts. Each member took a position to ensure no prey could escape once the attack began. They had used this same strategy to bring down massive herd beasts, swift aerial predators, and even the infamous war beetles of Krex Prime. But as they prepared to strike, something unexpected happened. The large human, for that's what the creatures called themselves, suddenly stopped talking and turned toward the forest. He stood perfectly still for a moment, then said something to the others in a calm, measured tone. The other humans responded immediately, not with panic or confused scattering as most prey species would, but with quick, coordinated movements. They retrieved objects from their metal structures and took positions around their camp with military precision. "They know we're here," Thakmor rumbled, his earlier confidence wavering slightly. "Impossible," Velthar hissed. "We're downwind, concealed, silent. No prey species has ever detected us before an attack." Zarathus felt a strange chill run down her spine. In all her years of hunting across dozens of worlds and hundreds of species, she had never encountered prey that could detect a Kethavar hunting pack in full stealth mode. Their natural camouflage, scent masking, and movement techniques were products of evolutionary perfection. The largest human raised one of the objects he'd retrieved, clearly some form of weapon based on how he held it. But instead of the energy weapons or projectile throwers they'd seen before, this device looked different, more compact, more refined. "Maybe they just got lucky," suggested Velthar, though his voice lacked conviction. The alpha female made her decision. They had committed to this hunt, and the Kethavar never retreated once prey had been selected. Besides, no matter how alert these creatures might be, they were still small, weak-looking beings without natural weapons. The pack's superior size, strength, and venom would ensure victory. Attack pattern 7, she commanded. Fast and overwhelming. The pack exploded from the forest with coordinated fury. Each Kethvar moved with lethal grace, covering the distance to the human camp in mere seconds. Their claws extended fully, venom dripped from their fangs, and their powerful muscles propelled them forward at speeds that had overwhelmed every previous prey species. Zarathus aimed directly for the largest human, intending to sink her paralytic fangs into his neck before he could use whatever weapon he carried. Around her, she could sense her pack members closing on their own targets. The hunt was proceeding exactly as planned, but something went wrong. The human didn't flee or freeze in terror as every other prey species had done. Instead, he moved with impossible speed and precision, raising his weapon and pointing it directly at her charging form. There was no fear in his movements, no panic in his stance. If anything, he seemed almost calm. The last thing Zarathus saw before the world exploded into light and pain was the human's eyes. They weren't the terrified orbs of cornered prey. They were the cold, calculating gaze of something that had looked death in the face before and emerged victorious. As consciousness faded, one terrible realization pierced through the alpha female's dying thoughts. They hadn't found prey at all. They had found something far more dangerous than any Kethvar had ever encountered. They had found humans. Commander Sarah Chen lowered her plasma rifle and surveyed the aftermath of the brief but intense encounter. 6 massive alien predators lay scattered around their research camp, their forms so large that each one could have easily overwhelmed a normal human through sheer size alone. But these weren't normal humans, and this wasn't their first encounter with hostile alien life. Contact report, she spoke into her communication device. We have 6 down, species unknown. Appeared to be pack hunters, highly coordinated attack pattern. Her team of 5 other researchers moved efficiently around the camp, checking for additional threats while examining the fallen creatures. Dr. Marcus Webb, their xenobiologist, was already kneeling beside one of the aliens. His scanner active. Commander, Webb called out. His voice filled with scientific excitement despite the recent danger. These creatures are remarkable. Look at the muscle density, the claw structure, and these fangs. They're clearly designed for injecting some kind of toxin. Chen approached for a closer look. The alien was indeed impressive, built like a perfect killing machine. Its hide showed scars from what appeared to be countless battles, and its claws were longer than her fingers. Any idea what they wanted? Based on their approach pattern and physiological adaptations, I'd say we were supposed to be dinner, replied Dr. Elena Vasquez, their team's anthropologist. She was examining claw marks on nearby trees. These scratches suggest they've been tracking us for some time. Private Jackson, the youngest member of their security detail, stared at the creatures with wide eyes. How did you know they were coming, Commander? I didn't hear anything. Chen smiled grimly. Experienced soldier. When you've been stationed on as many frontier worlds as I have, you develop certain instincts. Plus, the forest went too quiet. No bird songs, no insect noises. That usually means something large and predatory is nearby. Dr. Webb stood up from his examination, his expression troubled. Commander, these creatures are built for hunting. Everything about them screams apex predator. The way they attacked in coordination suggests high intelligence and extensive hunting experience. And, Chen prompted, and they shouldn't have failed so completely, Webb continued. By all biological logic, creatures this well adapted should have been able to take down 6 humans, even armed humans, through sheer physical superiority. Chen holstered her weapon and looked around at her team. Each one was calmly going about their tasks, showing no signs of panic or even elevated stress. To an outside observer, they might have just finished dealing with a minor equipment malfunction rather than a life-threatening attack from alien predators. The question is, said Dr. Vasquez, were these locals to this planet or did they come from somewhere else? Unknown species suggests they're not locals, replied Chief Petty Officer Kim Santos, their team's survival specialist. She was examining one of the alien's hands, noting the way the claws retracted. This planet's ecosystem doesn't support predators this large based on our initial surveys. Chen nodded. Her team was right to be concerned. If these creatures had come from off-world, it suggested they were either scouts for a larger force or possibly refugees from some other conflict. Either possibility presented complications for their research mission. The research team had been on this unnamed planet for 3 weeks, conducting surveys for possible human colonization. The world showed promise: good atmosphere, abundant water, and no signs of intelligent indigenous life. At least no signs until now. Pack everything, Chen decided. We need to report this encounter to Fleet Command and recommend a full xenological survey before any colonization proceeds. As her team began breaking down their equipment, Dr. Webb continued his examination of the fallen creatures. Commander, there's something else. These aliens show signs of having hunted multiple different environments. Look at these adaptation markers. Their feet show wear patterns consistent with at least 3 different terrain types, and their hide shows burn scarring that suggests encounters with energy weapons. You're saying they're experienced hunters, Chen observed. More than that. They're successful hunters who have clearly taken down armed prey before. The scarring patterns suggest they've faced energy weapons and survived multiple encounters. Webb paused, looking up at Chen with concern. So why did they fail so completely here? Private Jackson, who had been listening, spoke up hesitantly. Maybe we're just better than whatever they faced before? The team exchanged glances. It wasn't an encouraging thought. If these creatures were experienced hunters who had successfully taken down armed opponents before, what did it say about the other species they'd encountered? Commander, Santos called from her position near the perimeter. I'm finding tracks out here. Multiple sets, different sizes. This might not have been the only pack in the area. Chen felt a familiar weight settle on her shoulders. The responsibility of keeping her team safe in an unknown and potentially hostile environment. How many sets of tracks? At least 20 individuals, maybe more. The tracks are old, maybe 2 days, but they're heading in the general direction of our landing site. The implications were clear. If there were more of these creatures and they were converging on the area where Chen's team had landed their shuttle, they could find themselves cut off from their escape route. Change of plans, Chen announced. We're not just packing, we're moving out. Now. As her team rapidly broke down their camp, Chen couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important about their encounter. The creatures had been perfectly designed for hunting, had clearly hunted successfully before, and had attacked with intelligent coordination. Yet they had failed completely against 6 humans. It wasn't that her team was untrained. Each member was a veteran of frontier operations with extensive combat experience. But the disparity between the aliens' apparent capabilities and their actual performance seemed too large to explain through human skill alone. Dr. Webb finished his scans and hurried to pack his equipment. Commander, I'm uploading all the biological data to our shuttle's computers. Fleet Command needs to see this. Understood. How long until you're ready to move? 5 minutes. Chen nodded and activated her communication system to contact their shuttle pilot. Phoenix, this is ground team. We're coming in hot with hostile contact data. Prep for immediate departure upon our arrival. The response crackled through her earpiece. Copy, ground team. Phoenix is ready. Any pursuit? Chen looked back at the forest where more of these creatures might be lurking. Unknown, but possible. We'll maintain communication and provide updates. As her team finished their preparations and began moving toward their landing site, Chen couldn't help but wonder what other surprises this galaxy might hold. If creatures this formidable existed and hunted successfully, what did that say about the other species they preyed upon? More importantly, what would happen when word spread that these apex predators had found something they couldn't hunt? 3 days later, aboard the research vessel Endeavour in high orbit, Commander Chen stood before a holographic display showing the planet's surface. The blue-green world looked peaceful from space, but she knew better now. Dr. Webb's analysis had revealed disturbing information about their alien attackers. The genetic markers are fascinating, Webb explained to the assembled crew. These Kethavar, I've named them based on vocal patterns in their communication, show clear signs of having adapted to hunt dozens of different species across multiple worlds. Captain Torres, the ship's commanding officer, studied the biological data with growing concern. You're saying they're not native to that planet? Definitely not. Their physiology shows adaptation markers that could only come from generations of hunting in different environments. They're essentially a nomadic species of apex predators, moving from world to world. Chen added her own observations. Their attack pattern was perfect, Captain. Coordinated, silent, overwhelming force. Everything about their approach suggested extensive experience hunting intelligent prey. But they failed completely, noted Lieutenant Commander Patel, the ship's tactical officer. 6 experienced predators against 6 humans and not 1 human casualty. That doesn't add up. Dr. Vasquez, who had been quiet during the briefing, finally spoke. I think we're asking the wrong question. We keep focusing on why they failed. Maybe we should ask what they expected to happen. The room fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. Captain Torres was the first to speak. You think they've never encountered anything like us before? More than that, Vasquez continued. Based on their attack confidence and coordination, they expected us to react like every other species they've hunted. Panic, scatter, become easy prey. Webb nodded enthusiastically. That would explain their approach. No caution, no probing attacks, just a straightforward assault. They were so confident it would work that they didn't plan for failure. Chen felt a chill as she considered the implications, which means every other intelligent species they've encountered has been helpless against them. Not helpless, corrected Patel, studying the tactical data, but probably lacking the combination of factors that made our defense effective. Individual combat skills, weapons technology, pack coordination of our own, and, most importantly, we didn't panic, finished Chen. We've fought enough hostile aliens to know how to respond under pressure. Captain Torres activated the ship's communication system. Bridge, get me a priority channel to Fleet Command. We need to report these findings immediately. While they waited for the connection, Dr. Webb continued his analysis. Captain, there's something else. The genetic diversity in the pack suggests they're not a single family group. They're a coalition of individuals from different bloodlines, possibly different regions or even different worlds. Mercenaries? Suggested Patel, possibly, or refugees from destroyed hunting grounds. Either way, it suggests their species has spread across a significant portion of the galaxy. The communication system chimed, indicating Fleet Command was online. Admiral Harrison's stern face appeared on the main screen. Captain Torres, report. Torres quickly summarized their findings, with Chen and Webb providing additional details about the encounter and subsequent analysis. Admiral Harrison listened without interruption, his expression growing more serious with each revelation. Let me make sure I understand, Harrison said finally. We have a species of nomadic predators that has successfully hunted intelligent life across multiple worlds, possibly for generations, and they just encountered humans for the first time. Yes, sir, confirmed Chen, and based on their confidence and tactics, every other species they've met has been easy prey. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Dr. Webb, in your professional opinion, how many worlds might they have visited? Webb consulted his data. Based on the genetic and physiological markers, I'd estimate they've adapted to hunting on at least 15 to 20 different worlds. Possibly more. And they've been successful on all of them? The evidence suggests so, Admiral. Their hunting techniques are too refined and their confidence too absolute for them to have experienced significant failures before now. Harrison's expression grew grim, which means there are potentially dozens of intelligent species out there that have fallen victim to these creatures. The implications hung heavy in the air. If the Kethvar were as successful as the evidence suggested, it painted a disturbing picture of the galaxy's ecological dynamics. How many civilizations had fallen to these predators? How many species had been driven to extinction? Admiral, Chen interjected, there's another concern. If word spreads among their species that they encountered something they couldn't hunt, it might draw more of them to human space. Explain. Think about it from their perspective, sir. They've spent generations or possibly centuries hunting successfully. Now they've found something new. Something that represents a challenge they've never faced before. For a species built around hunting, they'll see us as the ultimate prey. Harrison finished. Captain Torres, I want your ship to remain in orbit and continue monitoring. Dr. Webb, I need a full xenological profile on these creatures as soon as possible. Commander Chen, prepare a detailed tactical assessment of their capabilities and weaknesses. Yes, sir, they responded in unison. And Captain, Harrison added, maintain communication silence regarding this discovery. We need to understand the full scope of the threat before word gets out. The connection ended, leaving the crew in contemplative silence. Finally, Captain Torres spoke. Dr. Webb, how long for that xenological profile? 48 hours for a preliminary report, sir. I'll need more data for anything comprehensive. Commander Chen, tactical assessment, 24 hours, Captain. I want to run some simulations based on their observed capabilities. Torres nodded. Dr. Vasquez, I want you to work with both teams. If we're right about these creatures representing first contact with human-level combat effectiveness, we need to understand the cultural implications. As the meeting dispersed, Chen found herself staring out the observation window at the planet below. Somewhere down there, more Kethvar might be discovering the bodies of their pack members. The question was, what would they do with that discovery? Would they retreat, recognizing they had found something beyond their ability to hunt, or would they see it as a challenge, something that required a larger pack, better tactics, or different weapons? Chen had a sinking feeling she knew which option was more likely. In her experience, apex predators didn't back down from challenges. They adapted and returned stronger. The thought of the galaxy's most successful hunters focusing their attention on humanity was not a comfortable one. Especially if humans were the first species to successfully resist them, that made humanity either very lucky or very dangerous. Chen suspected it was probably both. 2 weeks after the initial encounter, the Kethvar homeworld of Sektara buzzed with unprecedented activity. For the first time in recorded history, hunting packs from across the galaxy were returning home not with trophies and tales of successful hunts, but with disturbing reports of failure. Elder Matriarch Kethana stood before the Great Assembly, her ancient form commanding respect from the hundreds of hunters gathered in the vast cavern. At over 4 meters tall and scarred from countless successful hunts across dozens of worlds, she represented the pinnacle of Kethvar evolution. Her voice echoed off the stone walls as she addressed her species. "The pack of Zarathus has not returned," she announced, her words carrying the weight of an unprecedented event. Their hunting ground was a small world in the spiral arm systems. 6 experienced hunters led by one of our finest alphas have vanished. A ripple of unease passed through the assembly. Hunting packs sometimes suffered casualties, but complete disappearance was unheard of. The Kethvar had dominated every ecosystem they had ever entered. 3 other packs report similar encounters, Kethana continued. Strange bipedal creatures that do not flee, do not panic, and possess weapons that can harm our kind. Pack leader. Drakmor stepped forward from the crowd. His pack had recently returned from the Outer Rim with disturbing news. Elder Mother, the beings my pack encountered showed no fear. They moved with coordination that matched our own and their weapons. Speak plainly, Drakmor. Their weapons killed Velcris before she could close to combat range. The energy discharge was unlike anything we have encountered before. Precise, controlled, deadly. Another hunter, Sektal, raised her voice. My pack observed these creatures from concealment for several days before attacking. They show no natural weapons, no armor plating, no enhanced physical capabilities. Yet when we struck, 3 of my hunters fell before we could disengage. The assembly erupted in troubled growls and hisses. This was wrong. This violated everything the Kethvar understood about the natural order of the galaxy. They were the apex predators. They were the ones who hunted. They had never been prey. Elder Matriarch Kethana raised her claws for silence. What did the survivors report about these creatures' behavior after combat? They did not consume our fallen, Sektal replied, her voice filled with confusion. They examined the bodies, made strange sounds to each other, then left them. Untouched. No feeding, no trophy-taking. This revelation sent a deeper wave of unease through the gathering. Every species the Kethvar knew either fled from combat or, if victorious, claimed their trophies. These beings had won but taken nothing. It made no sense within their understanding of predator-prey relationships. There is more, announced Keth Thor, an elder hunter whose pack specialized in tracking the most dangerous prey. We have monitored their communication frequencies. These creatures coordinate across vast distances, sharing information between groups instantaneously. The implications were staggering. The Kethvar had always relied on their superior individual capabilities and pack coordination to overwhelm prey. If these beings could coordinate across multiple star systems in real time, traditional hunting strategies would be useless. What do the gene speakers say? Kethana asked, referring to the Kethvar's equivalent of scientists, who read the genetic memories inherited from successful hunts. Ancient Elder Vekmas, oldest of the gene speakers, stepped forward. Her scarred hide bore the marks of hunts from before the current generation was born. The genetic memories contain no reference to beings like these. No prey species has ever demonstrated such capabilities. Because they are not prey, a voice called from the back of the assembly. The gathering fell silent. To suggest that any species was not potential prey challenged the fundamental beliefs of Kethvar society. Elder Kethana's eyes fixed on the speaker, a young hunter named Thalak who had recently lost his entire pack. "Explain your words." "Young hunter." Thalak stepped forward, his body language showing both respect and determination. "Elder Mother, my pack encountered 12 of these beings. We attacked with perfect coordination, using tactics that have succeeded against the war clans of Vorthak Prime and the hive minds of the Crystal Worlds. And all 5 of my packmates died in less than 60 seconds. The beings moved faster than our combat precognition could track. Their weapons fired with accuracy that defied natural capability, and they fought as a single entity while maintaining individual initiative." The assembly stirred uneasily. The war clans of Vorthak Prime were considered among the most dangerous prey species in known space, requiring entire hunting fleets to subdue. If these new beings could outfight a pack that had successfully hunted Vorthak warriors, the implications were terrifying. "More concerning," Talak continued, "they captured me." Gasps echoed through the cavern. No Kethvar had ever been captured by prey. Death in battle was acceptable, even honorable, but capture suggested a level of sophistication and planning that went beyond simple predator-prey dynamics. I was held for 3 of their day cycles. They studied me, recorded my responses to various stimuli, tested my physical capabilities. Then they released me. "Released?" Kethana's voice carried dangerous undertones. "Why would hunters release captured prey?" "Because they are not hunters, Elder Mother. They are something else. Something we have no words for." Talak paused, his next words coming slowly. "They study everything. They learn, and they improve." The gene speaker Vekma spoke up. "What did you observe during your captivity?" They spoke in multiple different sound patterns, suggesting they encompass many subspecies or regional variants. Their tools and weapons showed refinement beyond anything in our experience. Most disturbing, they showed no interest in me as prey. Then what did they want? Knowledge. They wanted to understand how I hunted, what my capabilities were, how my species operated. They treated me as a source of information, not food. Elder Kethana considered this revelation carefully. In her long life, she had encountered thousands of species across dozens of star systems. Some fled, some fought, some attempted negotiation. None had ever studied their attackers with scientific detachment. "Were they afraid of you?" she asked. "No, Elder Mother. They were curious. The distinction was crucial. Fear was a response the Kethvar understood and could exploit. Curiosity suggested something far more dangerous, intelligence combined with confidence." "The young hunter speaks truth," declared another elder. "Our traditional hunting methods have failed against these beings. We must adapt or acknowledge that they represent something beyond our current understanding." The assembly buzzed with heated discussion. For a species built around the concept of being the galaxy's ultimate predators, the idea that something existed beyond their ability to hunt was almost incomprehensible. Finally, Elder Kethana called for silence. "A decision must be made. Do we gather more packs and attempt to overwhelm these beings through superior numbers? Do we develop new hunting techniques specifically for this prey type? Or," she paused, the alternative hanging unspoken in the air, "or do we consider that we may have encountered something that is not prey at all?" The question that had never been asked in Kethvar history hung in the air, waiting for an answer that would reshape their understanding of their place in the galaxy. The decision came swiftly and with devastating consequences for the Kethvar. Elder Matriarch Kethana, backed by the majority of the Great Assembly, declared that no species could exist beyond the reach of Kethvar Fangs. The greatest hunting fleet in their history would be assembled, 50 packs, over 300 of their finest hunters, equipped with their most advanced weapons and tracking technology. What they didn't know was that humanity had been preparing. Dr. Webb's xenological profile had been distributed throughout the human military, along with Commander Chen's tactical assessment. Every frontier colony, exploration vessel, and military outpost now carried specific protocols for Kethvar encounters. More importantly, humanity's greatest advantage had been activated, their ability to learn and adapt faster than any other known species. The human response wasn't just military. Anthropologists studied Kethvar hunting patterns, psychologists analyzed their behavioral triggers, and strategists developed countermeasures that went beyond simple combat tactics. Within 2 weeks, humanity had transformed from surprised prey to informed predators. The Kethvar fleet arrived at the edges of human space, expecting to find scattered, vulnerable settlements. Instead, they discovered something unprecedented: organized resistance. Pack leader Vashatar commanded the lead hunting group as they approached the human colony of New Geneva. His pack of 8 elite hunters had never failed to take a target, having successfully hunted across 15 different worlds. The intelligence suggested this colony contained over 10,000 humans, enough prey to feed the entire hunting fleet. Motion detectors show the prey moving in organized patterns, reported his tracker. Genko. They appear to be clustering in defensive positions around their primary structures. Vashatar felt a surge of satisfaction. Defensive positioning was predictable. Prey that gathered together was easier to manage, easier to overwhelm with concentrated force. Standard siege pattern: drive them into the central area, then systematic elimination. But as his pack approached the colony's perimeter, everything went wrong. The first sign of trouble came when Genkal simply vanished mid-stride. No sound, no warning. One moment he was moving through the forest, the next he was gone. Vashtar and his remaining hunters immediately went to full alert, scanning for threats. Sniper, called out Deckmore, the pack's heavy assault specialist. High-powered energy weapon, extreme range. Genkal was eliminated before he could react. This was impossible. Kethvar hunters had enhanced reflexes and danger sense that allowed them to detect and dodge most ranged attacks. For one of their number to be killed without any warning suggested weapon capabilities far beyond what they'd encountered before. Spread formation, advance with cover, Vashtar ordered, falling back on proven tactics. But the humans weren't interested in allowing a retreat. Admiral Harrison had assembled the largest human naval force since the Centauri Wars. 63 vessels, ranging from fast attack corvettes to heavy battlecruisers, converged on the Kethvar fleet's position. The aliens had expected to hunt scattered prey. Instead, they found themselves facing a coordinated military response that treated them as the existential threat they represented. Admiral, the alien fleet is attempting to withdraw, reported Captain Martinez from the lead battle group. Negative. We can't let them escape to warn others or regroup. This ends here. The human fleet moved with precision that stunned the Kethvar commanders. Instead of the chaotic responses they expected from prey species, the humans demonstrated tactical coordination that surpassed even their own pack strategies. Ships moved in perfect formation, weapons fired with devastating accuracy, and communication flowed seamlessly between vessels. Pack leader Thekmore, watching his pack ships being systematically destroyed around him, transmitted a final message to the homeworld. We were wrong. They are not prey. They are something worse than us. The Battle of the Kepler system lasted only 4 hours. When it ended, the greatest hunting fleet in Kethvar history was scattered debris floating in the void. Of the 300 elite hunters who had come to prove their species' dominance, fewer than 30 survived to carry word back to their homeworld. But perhaps the most shocking revelation came in the aftermath. As rescue ships recovered Kethvar survivors, they discovered that the humans were treating wounded aliens with medical care rather than consuming them or taking trophies. The survivors were studied, questioned, and then, incredibly, released with a message. The message was simple, delivered in perfectly translated Kethvar language. Tell your leaders that humanity is claiming protective custody over all species in this sector. Your hunting days are over. When the surviving hunters returned to Sektara with news of the fleet's destruction and humanity's declaration, Elder Matriarch Keth Anna faced a reality that challenged everything her species had believed about their place in the universe. For the first time in their evolutionary history, the Kethvar had encountered something that was not just more dangerous than they were, it was something that actively protected other species from predators like them. The galaxy's most successful hunters had become an extinct threat, stopped not by superior predators but by something entirely outside their understanding. Guardians. It finished. As the pack moved forward, hidden devices activated around them. Small explosions erupted from concealed positions, filling the air with metallic fragments that struck with devastating force. 2 more hunters fell before the pack could identify the source of the attacks. Automated defensive systems, growled Kreshtai, blood streaming from multiple fragment wounds. The entire area is trapped. Vashatar felt a cold realization setting in. This wasn't random defensive positioning. The humans had studied Kethvar tactics and prepared specific countermeasures. The traps were positioned exactly where hunting pack protocols would drive them. Fall back to secondary approach, he commanded. But there was no secondary approach. As his remaining hunters retreated, they discovered that every possible avenue of advance had been similarly prepared. Sniper positions covered open areas. Explosive devices blocked natural cover points, and sensor networks tracked their movements with precision that made stealth impossible. For the first time in his hunting career, Vashtar found himself completely outmaneuvered by prey. Similar scenes played out across a dozen different human settlements. As the Kethvar hunting fleet encountered resistance they had never imagined possible. Packs that had conquered star systems found themselves trapped in carefully prepared kill zones. Elite hunters who had never known defeat were eliminated by weapons they couldn't see fired by enemies they couldn't reach. But the true shock came when the humans transitioned from defense to offense. Commander Chen, now leading a tactical response team, studied the orbital positions of the Kethvar fleet from her command ship. The aliens had made a crucial error. They approached human space using standard predator tactics, focusing on individual hunting grounds rather than coordinated fleet operations. They're hunting us like they've hunted every other species, she explained to Admiral Harrison via secure communication. Individual packs taking individual targets. No fleet coordination, no strategic oversight. Can we exploit that? Already am, Admiral. We're not fighting them like prey. We're fighting them like the military threat they represent. The human response was swift and devastating. Instead of waiting for individual attacks, human forces coordinated across multiple star systems. Fleet elements that had been positioned for exploration and colony defense suddenly revealed themselves as a coordinated military force. Pack leader, Morthak was leading his hunters toward the mining colony of Kepler Station when his tracking displays lit up with impossible readings. Dozens of human vessels were approaching from multiple vectors, moving with military precision and armed with weapons that registered as significant threats even to Kethvar sensors. This is not how prey behaves, he transmitted to the fleet command ship. They are coordinating counterattacks across multiple systems simultaneously. Elder Huntmaster Kethval, commanding the overall fleet, watched his tactical displays with growing disbelief. In the span of 6 hours, his hunting fleet had gone from predator to prey. Human forces were using their superior coordination and communication to isolate individual packs, then overwhelming them with concentrated firepower. 17 packs have gone silent, reported his communications specialist. Human forces are actively hunting our hunters. The word hunting sent a chill through the command ship. For the first time in Kethvar history, they were experiencing what it felt like to be systematically tracked, cornered, and eliminated. All packs, withdraw to fleet formation, Kethval ordered. Defensive positioning, but the humans weren't. 6 months after the destruction of their greatest hunting fleet, the Kethvar homeworld of Sektara had transformed into something unrecognizable. The great hunting caverns that had once echoed with tales of conquest now whispered with discussions of survival. Elder Matriarch Kethana, her authority challenged for the first time in centuries, stood before a much smaller assembly. The message had been clear. Humanity had claimed protective custody over their hunting grounds. Every species the Kethvar had preyed upon for generations was now under human protection. More disturbing still, human ships had begun appearing in systems throughout former Kethvar territory, not to hunt, but to establish what they called protection protocols. The humans have contacted 47 species that we have previously hunted, reported Elder Vekmas, her voice heavy with implications none of them wanted to face. They are providing defensive technology, tactical training, and military support to our former prey. The assembly stirred uneasily. The idea that prey species might become predators was beyond their comprehension, yet the evidence was undeniable. Former victims were now armed with human weapons and protected by human fleets. 3 packs have attempted to hunt in the outer territories, continued Vekmas. All 3 encounters resulted in complete pack elimination. The prey species fought with human tactics and human weapons. Kethana felt the weight of evolutionary change pressing down on her ancient shoulders. In a single encounter, Humanity had not just defeated them. They had fundamentally altered the entire ecosystem of their galaxy. The natural order that had existed for millennia was being rewritten. A young hunter named Sakara stepped forward, her scarred hide showing signs of a recent encounter. "Elder Mother, I have spoken with the humans directly." Gasps echoed through the cavern. Contact with prey outside of hunting was unprecedented, almost incomprehensible. "Explain." "My pack encountered a human patrol vessel while tracking Vorthak refugees. Instead of attacking, they communicated. They offered to speak with our leadership about what they call alternative arrangements." Kethana's claws flexed involuntarily. The concept of alternative arrangements with prey challenged every instinct her species possessed. "What did they offer?" "They said they understand our nature as hunters, but they suggested we might redirect our hunting instincts toward what they call acceptable targets, such as automated defense systems that need testing, combat training scenarios for their military, hostile alien species that threaten peaceful civilizations." Sakara paused, her next words carefully chosen. "They offered to pay us for these services." The concept of payment for hunting was so alien to Kethvar, thinking that several members of the assembly couldn't process it. They hunted because it was their nature, their evolutionary imperative. The idea of hunting for artificial rewards rather than survival and dominance was revolutionary. "They also offered something else," Sakara continued. "Protection." "Protection from what?" "From other species seeking revenge for our past hunts. They showed me data indicating that 17 different civilizations have formed what they call a coalition of victims. These species are actively hunting us now, using human weapons and tactics." The irony was bitter and complete. The galaxy's greatest predators had become hunted prey, and only their former victims' protectors stood between them and extinction. Elder Kethana considered the unprecedented situation. Traditional Kethvar society was built around strength, hunting success, and territorial dominance. But humanity had demonstrated capabilities that made traditional approaches not just unsuccessful, but suicidal. "What are the terms of this protection?" she asked finally. "Complete cessation of hunting intelligent species, submission to human authority in matters of interspecies conflict, relocation to designated territories under human supervision." Sakara's voice carried the weight of what these terms meant. "In exchange, they offer us controlled hunting experiences, military roles in their forces, and guaranteed survival as a species. They wish to make pets of us," growled one of the older hunters. "No," corrected Vecmus, who had been studying human behavioral patterns since the first encounter. "They wish to domesticate us. There is a difference. The distinction was crucial. Pets were kept for companionship or amusement. Domestication implied that humans saw value in Kethvar capabilities, properly directed. They study everything they encounter," Vecmus continued. "Their approach to us is not emotional, it is practical. They have identified our capabilities and are attempting to incorporate them into their larger strategic framework." Commander Sarah Chen's image appeared on the central hologram projector, her presence somehow filling the great cavern despite being transmitted from light years away. She spoke in fluent Kethvar, her pronunciation precise enough to convey respect for their language while maintaining the authoritative tone that had made her infamous among their species. "Elder Matriarch Kethana," Chen began, "I bring greetings from the Human Federation and an offer of partnership." The word partnership sent ripples through the assembly. It implied equality, mutual benefit, voluntary cooperation, concepts that had never existed in Kethvar. Relationships with other species. Your species possesses capabilities that could be valuable in protecting peaceful civilizations from genuine threats, Chen continued. "There are hostile forces in this galaxy that share your predatory nature but lack your honor in combat. We offer you the chance to hunt again, but as protectors rather than predators." Elder Kethana stepped forward, her massive form commanding attention even on the holographic display. "What guarantee do we have that you will not simply eliminate us once we are no longer useful?" Chen's expression remained steady. "The same guarantee we've given to 47 other species. Our word, backed by our actions. We have never betrayed a species that chose cooperation over conflict, and if we refuse, then you will face the coalition of victims alone. They have good reason to want your species extinct, and we will not interfere with what they consider justice." The choice was stark and final. Submit to human authority and survive as something other than apex predators, or maintain their traditional ways and face extinction at the hands of their former prey. Elder Kethana looked out over her people, proud hunters who had dominated the galaxy for centuries, now reduced to choosing between survival and pride. "We accept your terms," she said finally, the words carrying the weight of evolutionary surrender. But as she spoke, she realized something profound had occurred. For the first time in their species' history, the Kethvar had encountered something more dangerous than they were. Not a superior predator, but a species that had transcended the predator-prey relationship entirely. Humanity hadn't defeated them through superior hunting. They had made hunting itself obsolete by becoming something the Kethvar had never imagined possible. Guardians of a galactic civilization where strength served protection rather than predation. In that moment, as the greatest hunters in galactic history became the newest members of humanity's growing alliance, Elder Kethana understood that they hadn't just lost a war. They had encountered evolution itself, and it was wearing a human face.